and it helps you with your songwriting, helps you when you're creating beats. And you might have a really good idea. I know so many musicians that can just come up with awesome riffs. I myself can come up with like a really just good sounding riff. And music theory isn't going to say like, well, what you're doing here on this riff is actually not quite as, but like, okay, maybe someone could tell you that, but that's not what music theory is going to be. If anyone tries to tell you like, well, actually, if you make it resolve on the fourth, then it's actually going to be a lot better. I mean, it might, but also if it sounds good, you got to trust that it sounds good. But what happens is it gives you sort of like a palette so that you start with whatever riff you're on. It gives you sort of areas to explore beyond it, so you don't get boxed in. If you just understand like modes, if you understand just you can do a lot with a little. If you just have a basic major and minor progression, if you understand how to achieve that, there's a whole bunch of things in between, and a whole bunch of things that maybe you don't even need to learn beyond, but having a basic understanding of just sort of some basic scales, so that whatever your starting key is, right? Like whatever key you're in, you can navigate the notes within that. It's going to be very helpful, so you're not just hunting around and going by ear. And if you have good instincts, you might be able to just click on a piano and, oh wow, this sounds good after that, and find a pattern. I spent a lot of time doing that myself. I was very naturally attuned to guitar. I've listened to so many rock bands growing up. And I just sort of was able to pick it up and find riffs that, oh yeah, this makes sense. This sounds like things that other bands that I like do, right? That's how I started the majority. And I honestly would say start like that, actually. Maybe don't start with theory. The first thing you do is because that might actually stifle your creativity, but you should already be naturally inclined to pick up an instrument and make a bunch of sounds. Just start messing around on it, because really you could read all the knowledge of the book, in a book, and every musical theory ever known to man. But if you can't produce it, if you can't sit down on the instrument and make it sound the way it's telling you, it doesn't really matter, right?